Let's talk a little bit about Florida at Utah week one. Why not? Everybody else is. And Florida has McNeese State this weekend, 62-7. Probably going to be the final score. This could be the worst team Florida's played in years. Um, I don't know what that kind of win will do for the fan base. Hopefully it'll help the team kind of iron out some of the kinks and some of the things that they had trouble with week one, before Tennessee comes to town the following week. Going into the game, everybody has all these crazy expectations about what Florida's going to be or what they think they're going to be, what they think they should be, things like that. And, certainly it was a long off season. Florida brings in a lot of new players, namely Graham Mertz at quarterback, arguably the most important position on the field. I wasn't sure what to really expect out of Graham. I thought that given the circumstances of night game, national television, on the road in Utah, not really being able to run the ball. The offensive line struggled at times at center, which, maybe was to be expected with Kingsley being out and breaking in a new right tackle with Damian George. I thought he was kind of under duress, most of the night and thought he performed, pretty well given the circumstances. Certainly didn't expect the defense to give up, 70-yard touchdown pass on the first play of the game. But, had you told me before the game Florida's going to give up 70 yards in a TD pass against Moton and Marshall on the first play of the game, and then the next 52 plays, they're going to give up 200 yards for a total of 270 yards, I would have said Florida wins the game, by double digits. So certainly I think some of the false starts early on in the game when Florida had some momentum, they were driving, they were inside the red zone, very costly penalties that they couldn't really overcome. I thought that a couple guys, showed flashes of, what's in store down the road, namely TJ Searcy. I thought he looked fantastic in limited time. I thought Kelby Collins looked really good. I felt that, Chris McClellan looked really good. I was a little surprised about the maybe absence, if you will, of Cam Jackson and Caleb Banks. I think the two of them combined for 2 tackles on the night. So I certainly expect to see them, get in the mix a little bit more when SEC play starts and some of these teams try to run the ball between the tackles. I think those guys will become more of a factor. I thought that Jordan Castile, looked really good. Second on the team in tackles, I think was 7, making his first start. We heard Jason Marshall earlier today talk about how Jordan was a little bit antsy and nervous, which is to be expected on the road and, being a freshman. So I think that, the future is bright for him. I thought that Mertz at times looked to force the ball maybe to Ricky a little bit too much, but Ricky seems to be able to have this ability to kind of, basically get open kind of wherever he wants, especially in the middle of the field. So I think that they'll take advantage of that, some of those matchups more. Everybody knows, my thoughts on Eugene Wilson. I thought he looked great in limited action. Definitely expect to see him get closer to double-digit touches a game moving forward. I think that the fans were definitely disappointed. They expected to see maybe something different, but, outside of Gator Nation, no one in the country believed or even said Florida would really win this game. It was only Florida fans that felt like they would win. I certainly thought they would win, given the absences that Utah was dealing with, especially at the quarterback position. So, now it's get back to the drawing board, figure out the mistakes they made, and hopefully those are things that don't happen moving forward. So I think that, where we are with recruiting right now, things are going really good. Florida had all that action over the summer with a bunch of commitments, but, just looking at some of the guys, maybe by position for a minute, Isaiah Williams is from Tampa, Hawkins is from, he's down at IMG in Bradenton. Abrams is, from Fort Myers. Those guys are smaller guys, 5'11" to, 6'1", all less than 175 pounds, but they all have a lot of speed. So, they've got those 3 guys coming in. They've got a tight end from Georgia, Amir Jackson, who's a bigger kid, 6'5", 220. Really like what he brings to the table. Clearly the bell cow of the class is Lagway. I think he had 8 touchdown passes in the first half. And, Florida fans are, counting the days until, he gets on campus. I know he's going to come in town this weekend for McNeese State and bring, I think, 5 people of his family. They've got a couple good offensive linemen, Mike Williams, and, we got a guy from Germany. When's the last time you can say Florida landed a kid from Germany, 6'5", 320 pounds? So I had a chance to go watch Marcus Maskell Friday night against Acula. Very long and lean, 6'5", 310 pounds. I was very surprised. I wasn't really sure what to expect going in, and and seeing him for the first time live, but I felt like he really moved really well. I was very impressed. And, some of the guys on Twitter were killing me with some of the highlights I was putting out there saying, oh, Jason, he should be dominating that guy. Look how small that guy is. And I get all that, but he can only play who's in front of him. And he looked really good, really athletic, and the kid can really move. So I'm excited about him. Of course, Fletcher Westphal, out of Virginia, is a 6'8", 350-pound monster, exactly what Florida needs at tackle. And of course, when you get to the defensive side of the ball, this is where the class really starts to shine with guys like Miles Graham and Hayes and, Aaron out of Maryland and Jamonte Waller. Those four guys make up, I think, without question, the number one linebacker class in the country. They go from 6'1", 6'4", 6'3", 6'2". They're all north of 215 pounds to 225. I mean, fantastic looking guys. Some real linebackers that are real athletic, great speed. They can move sideline to sideline. They can play downhill. They can cover tight ends. This is exactly what Florida's been lacking over the last couple of years, in my opinion. So, and then they dip into Georgia again for a couple D tackles with Micah and Johnson out of Dublin and Fairburn. Those guys are 6'4", 6'5", 320 pounds. I had a chance to meet those guys last time I was down in Gainesville, and I was blown away at their size. I mean, they were standing with Gervon Dexter, and they were every bit as big as Dexter was, and kind of made him look a little lean and maybe a little bit small. So, and then of course you get to some of the defensive ends with, local prospect Kendall Jackson, and then another DB out of Georgia, Josiah Davis, and Xavier out of Texas, and Teddy Foster and Wardell Mack. I mean, so I think the recruiting class is going fantastic right now. There's a couple more guys that are waiting on. I expect them to get 2 or 3 more guys, and really it was important for Florida, I think, with maybe anticipating that they might struggle this season, to get as many of these guys on board as possible before the season started, because, as we all know, it's easier to hold on to guys when you get them publicly committed versus maybe struggling throughout the season and then trying to get those guys to commit later. So, I think they're doing a really good job with some of those kind of things. And McNeese State, I looked at those guys a little bit today. It literally could be the worst team Florida's played in a couple of years. And, if the final score is not 62-7 or anything closer than that, I'll be somewhat surprised. And, I know Tennessee's getting ready for Florida right now. I know Florida's getting ready for Tennessee right now. And, that game early on looks to be the biggest game in Coach Napier's coaching career, at least at the University of Florida. So I'm excited about seeing the team back on the field, first home game, and Tennessee will roll into town the week after that, and then we'll go from there.